I'm sure by now, a lot of you have probably already heard about or played the Dinoblade Demo. If not, well, it's time to check it out. If you like dinosaurs, and you like giant flaming swords, this game is going to be the game for you. You know, eventually, when it's fully released. But also right now, because the demo is free to play. Anyway, because of the nature of how this game plays, this will be a bit different from my usual content. I usually play survival-based games, so this is a little bit outside my wheelhouse. I do apologize in advance for my incredible skill issue. I arrived in the canyon, a lone Spinosaurus, ready to face my destiny. In order to do that, I, of course, needed a weapon. My incredible skills in martial arts wouldn't be enough to destroy the dangerous creatures ahead of me. As this is a demo, we don't yet know our little Spino's story, so for now, we can only guess as to his motivations. With the initial tutorial out of the way, I made my way down a waterfall into the next area. Here, there were more enemies than before, and multiple directions to go. I picked the closest path, but, yeah, what I found at the top looked very much like a boss. I decided it was best to go back down and finish dealing with the problem children I could see first. Before long, I had no choice but to make my way forward toward the first boss. Kira the Exile. Flashbacks to a certain Exile raptor. So anyway, she absolutely kicked my butt. I won't subject you to all the grinding I needed to do in order to increase my health and attack enough to survive this battle. Instead, we'll skip ahead to my next attempt. I gotta say, I absolutely love how dynamic and wild the animations for the combat are. It's all very flashy and cool looking, especially for a game centered around dinosaurs. Anyway, after delivering the final blow to Kira, I gained my first attack upgrade and continued forward. The enemies were getting larger and stronger, as expected. But now I had a cool new attack. Sure, it used some of my mana, but it was incredibly strong. Onward and into a massive enemy with a hammer and a knack for deleting a good chunk of my HP. Luckily for me, he wasn't as strong as he appeared, though, and I escaped alive. In a small side passage, I found a little ankylosaur being attacked by two sword-wielding raptors. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to save him or kill him, but in the end, it didn't really matter either way. He was killed, and I took his soul and the sword he was guarding for myself. Ahead, a true monster loomed. I was not ready for the next boss already. But as I approached, the Rex roared and took off. Oh, thank goodness. Not yet. I think one of my favorite things is that certain enemies, even small ones, there are occasionally finishing moves that add character and nuance to the fights. In general, it adds a lot to the overall proof of concept for the upcoming game, and just makes me happy because my little Spino looks like a Chad out there battling for his life. Ahead was the next indication of an upcoming boss battle. I was not sure that I was ready for this yet. I'd leveled up some, but surely not enough. Was I surprised by the name Axe? No. Not remotely once I saw the massive axe he was carrying. The fight, however, went about as well as I was expecting. It was during my second attempt that I remembered I could dodge roll to escape attacks. But at the end of the day, I simply wasn't strong enough. I needed to do some serious training. After repeatedly destroying the same groups of enemies and leveling up several more times, also trying and failing to beat Axe more times than I care to admit, I returned to fight the good fight again. Right out the gate, things were not going well. I used my strongest attack too early, missing. Before long, I'd used all of my heals, and Axe was still nowhere near dead. Out of panic, I rushed out of the arena. Oh. Apparently, it actually lets me do that while keeping the progress I'd made in killing him. Well, with that little oversight existing, I opted to take the easy way out. Was it necessarily the proper way to do it? No. But I beat him, so it was time to keep moving forward. By now, I knew I was likely getting close to the end of the demo. Honestly, I'd originally thought that Axe might be the final boss for now. But within a very short amount of time, the fog grew thick ahead, and I knew I'd reached the true final boss. This was not going to be pretty. Kasei the Tyrant was very clearly a monster. But also, good grief, do I love her design. Talk about intimidating, out here literally using a defenseless Anki as a weapon. I wasn't going to be able to beat her with sheer strength. I needed to actually utilize the weapons at my disposal. Honestly, aside from being low on heals, I felt like I was doing alright this time. She was worn down enough that I reached the second phase of the battle at the very least. But I had a feeling this was going to get a lot more difficult. A couple of missed attacks threw off the groove I'd gotten into, and before long, I died. I'll be honest, though, I was immediately encouraged. I'd gotten so far into the fight on the very first try, I'd just try again. No problem. So, yeah. Beginner's luck, clearly. And so the true grind began. But I won't subject you to that. Instead, we'll just skip over the many, many times I died, testing if I was finally strong enough to beat Kasei, and jump right to the final battle. Over the course of my fights, I'd learned a few things. The first was to avoid wasting my mana in the first half of the fight. It was much better utilized later. The second was that timing of attacks and dodges mattered here just as often as it does in my survival games. And finally, canceling the automatic lock-on so that I could better control both my general movement as well as the direction of my dodges was incredibly important. Finally, she was down to the final stretch. One more good combo would take her down. But one mistake would wipe me out too. I'd been here a dozen times before. Victory. As expected, the demo ends just beyond Kasei's arena. But see, this demo is free. So if you want to try it out for yourself, and I highly recommend you do as it's a lot of fun, you should absolutely go grab it on Steam. And give the developer your support. I would love to see this full game released in the future. Anyway, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think about this little foray into a mildly different dinosaur game than my usual ones. I'd love to hear from y'all. Also, if you're new here and enjoyed the watch, I'd love for you to stick around by subscribing. Thanks, and I hope to see you again soon.